But for Airbnb, for one weekend, I could easily have made like 500. And if it's a festival weekend where places to stay were real tight, for Lollapalooza, it's a big music festival here, I know I made $1,500 in one weekend, I think. Maybe it was closer to $2,000, $1,700 over 2 or 3 days.
Bjorn, welcome back to another episode of the Life Money U podcast here. Did you hear the story about the photon that checked into an Airbnb and the host asked why he didn't have any luggage? Well, the photon said, "No, I'm traveling light."
Woo. Wow.
My airtime is really going to get cut down on these things.
I think we're going to have to work on those jokes. I'm not sure that my kids would even get that one. So,
for our science aficionados, I am definitely going to have to add a laugh track in here eventually because
we do.
It's going to get very, very quiet very, very soon. But wow. So I wanted to continue on the Airbnb conversation here.
Yeah, well, I think you had actually a opportunity here to talk with one of our teammates about his Airbnb experience. So you want to just give us maybe a little bit of a preview of that conversation?
Yeah, I actually did have a chance to sit down with Warren, one of the gentlemen here on the Life Money U team. And one of the things I did not know is that he is pretty experienced in Airbnb and, doing stuff like you and me to help him on his pursuit of financial freedom. So I thought he had just a lot of really good lessons and experiences with Airbnb that could help a lot of people who are maybe thinking about it, kicking it around, but don't know where to start. So it's a great conversation. And without further ado, here it is. I have a special guest, hopefully someone that will be back many times, my colleague in the Life Money U program, Warren, and I want to thank you, Warren, for coming on with me here. And we were actually just recently talking, and I didn't know something about you, and I thought, man, we should dive into this a little bit more.
Hi, Pete. Hi, everybody. First-time listener, long-time caller. I used to Airbnb, and just to give everyone a little bit of prelude, I wrote down my little journey. So I bought a house and knew I couldn't afford it. I bought it right when I turned 30, but I intentionally bought a second bedroom because when I was 30, I was traveling 75% for work. And so I knew there was ample opportunity to rent the space out. So I decided to Airbnb. And so that is the answer to Pete's question. I used to Airbnb, and I would absolutely do it again.
Let me start with this. Where do you live? Because obviously Airbnb is a little bit contingent upon having a place where people will go and want to rent, but you are in a fairly hot area, right?
Yeah, so I live in the city of Chicago. I live a little bit outside the city center. I live just close enough to the action that you can get there easily on public transportation and quickly on public transportation. But I don't live next to Wrigley Field necessarily. I live more like a mile from Wrigley Field, which is where the Cubs play, if you didn't know.
But for those who aren't sports fans, I'm from Detroit, so none of the Chicago teams really matter to me particularly, but go Tigers. But that puts you in an area where people are coming to. Chicago's always a destination for vacation and travel. And I wonder, you had this extra room. Why not just sublet it out long-term to a roommate?
Because I was 30 and I had just bought my first place and I wanted to have free time in my space when I wanted. I didn't want to always share a place. And to be honest, you've got to be a little bit nicer to roommates. You know what I mean? If someone's staying with you in Airbnb, you don't really have to interact with them if you don't want to. So that would be the answer to why.
Okay, that makes sense. If you just want a week or 2 or 3 to decompress yourself, have your own personal time, you've got the whole place to yourself because you've just closed off the Airbnb availability. From a financial standpoint, did that come into the equation when you were looking at what I can get for my Airbnb versus what I could collect from rent from a roommate? Or was that not a part of that picture at all? Or was the Airbnb potentially better than having someone there full time?
So taking one step back, when I first started, my intention was to sometimes rent it out with me staying there and sometimes renting out the entire place. And maybe the platform's changed, but at that time, the platform wasn't set up to do that. So I actually set up 2 separate profiles. In terms of the equation of how I decided to do Airbnb over a roommate, I'm sure I did some kind of basic math like that. But to be honest, when I first moved into my place, like the neighborhood's always been fine, but it wasn't like popping where I could get a huge rent. And Airbnb was blowing up. Before the pandemic, I had several friends all buy like a bunch of extra places. They all bought like an extra place and started like Airbnb. Like it became really hot. Like I got in just at that right time where like people knew about Airbnb and were really using it. So there was a good business volume coming in, but there wasn't necessarily like a lot of competition. When I first started, you could put in very little effort, have a junky room, still live in the place that you're renting out, like just rent out a single room, and you'd still make decent money. I rent out my place now and I make as much now, or maybe even a little less, renting out just my single room than all the way back then when I was renting out. It was junky as heck. Like a stained comforter, like blinds that just had a tension run that were probably hanging at an angle. It was bare bones. And I was a smelly 30-year-old guy. I'm still impressed how much money I made. So yes, that was part of the equation, but especially since I knew that sometimes I would be renting out the entire place, I knew I could make so much more, because you can rent out a room for, let's say, $700 to $1,000 in Chicago. Like in the area that I'm in, you could rent it out for roughly that range.
700 to over what time period?
Yeah, so that'd be that's for an actual roommate, not Airbnb, but just you'd make $700 to $1,000 for a roommate in 1 month, and then you could still charge them utilities on top of that. But for Airbnb, for one weekend, I could easily have made like $500. And if it's a festival weekend where places to stay were real tight, for Lollapalooza, it's a big music festival here, I know I made $1,500 in one weekend. I think maybe it was closer to $2,000, $1,700 over 2 or 3 days. And I think one year I might have done $2,000 even. It was crazy.
So it's not even close in that regard. Over a few days, you can make 2-3 times as much as you'd collect from rent from someone being there all the time. That seems pretty easy. And then the flexibility on top of that. So it also sounds like when it was pretty junky, it was more just about a roof over your head, huh?
It was. And even when I was having a junky Airbnb, it served a certain clientele. It was more college students, more like people traveling on a shoestring or traveling a budget. But it was very seasonal. During the winter, you just didn't make as much money. During the winter, you don't see the same midweek reservations that you'd see over summer.
Gotcha. You also mentioned that you would rent the whole place out. How were you able to do that? How would you have somewhere else to go? Or what was the situation that allows you to rent an entire place?
Yeah, and I meant to say this at the beginning, but then I forgot. So my whole arc for my making money off my housing is I bought a house I couldn't afford. I tried renting out just a room on Airbnb. Then I started renting out the entire place, which I'll get to now. And I actually built a door in the middle of my place to separate my condo into 2 separate living spaces. And then COVID happened. I ripped out the door and I just decided to get a roommate. But I was traveling 75% for work. So I was able to frequently rent out my place for a week or more. And it made it very easy to rent out the entire place. But I did Airbnb for maybe 5 years, and I was dating someone for at least a portion of that. And so I would even live with them sometimes, or we would be planning to go on a vacation. And I'd be like, hey, if I rent out my place every weekend this month, like that'll make our money for our trip. Do you want to do that? And the answer was always yes.
Yeah. Income, life experiences, you're using your real estate as a tool to get you those things that you want. That's pretty awesome. So is it maybe an opportunity more for people who travel a lot, the consultants that are on the road a lot, people who aren't home? I know that a lot of people who would take on roommates used to say that they would love getting flight attendants because they're always on the road and never around and still paying rent in their place. Or is the person that's still living there, is that a good opportunity for them too?
So I have an Airbnb since pre-pandemic. And nowadays, I think that the market's changed where a lot of cities like added a lot more laws to make hotels more competitive, that would be the nice way to say it. And so that's put a squeeze on Airbnb, and Airbnbs flooded the market. Like a lot of people bought extra properties to Airbnb. More and more people just learned about it. And so they had a situation where they could rent out their space. They just started using it more. And so I think there's a lot more competition, and it's harder to make enough money to make it worth your time to rent out just a room. Now, if you live next to like an attraction in a city, like I have a friend who lives next to Wrigley Field where the Cubs play, and they rent out just a room, and for some weekends they can easily clear $1,000. And I think the whole apartment is $3,000 a month. So they can make a third of rent just renting off one room while they still live there. in that short amount of time. But they're literally across the street from where a Major League Baseball team plays.
Gotcha. So someone's coming in for the weekend. They're going to take in a game or two. They want to be able to walk there, not take transportation, have the Wrigleyville experience, hit up the local hots.
Yeah, there's all these bars you can walk to. Like, the place is immaculate. The place is beautiful. It's huge. Like, the guy who runs it does catering even, so I think he might even throw in some extra frills. And one other thing I'll quick touch on, and we can talk about this later if you want to, is once you establish a good rating and enough reviews, once you get that reputation built up, it's just so easy. Especially if you set prices like far in advance, you can really just learn how to play with the pricing and make money.
Gotcha. Seems like watching the calendar of events in your area is important too. Obviously, Lala is a huge event here in Chicago, and they do a lot of events, maybe not as many in the winter. I'm just thinking of like Taste of Chicago and the concerts in Millennium Park, and there's a lot of Cubs games, even in Wrigley Field. They do a lot of other events in Wrigley Field, concerts. I know Northwestern did a football game down there. It seems if you really look at the calendar, you can price strategically to some of those things as well. Is that right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
like,
cool.
you really need to keep an eye, because like there was one year that I just wasn't paying attention and I accidentally let people book Lollapalooza weekend for only like a few $100 or a couple $100 a night. And you can even learn how to play with the settings, because I would always say my max was 2 people could stay. But on like Lollapalooza weekend, I would maybe put it up to 4, and that way you could get like people to pay $500 for a night, because you'd get like this group of 4, probably college age kids. They'd like, 1 would sleep on the couch, 2 would sleep on the bed, and then like I'd put out like a blow up mattress or something for them. And it's just like those small little things that weekend you do that. One other like knack to make money is that people love like a gimmick to go to. So I personally love plants. I covered my house with plants, so that it just looked like a jungle. And then if you're a super host, which basically means that you get a certain number of stays and you keep a certain rating, then back in the day, Airbnb used to give you incentives. And so my incentive that I used was I got a free photographer session. And so not only did I have all these like plants to make my house cool, but Airbnb subsidized a photographer to come take like attractive pictures of my little personal jungle. And then I even changed the name of my listing to Greenhouse or something. And people just ate it up. And then I had 100 reviews on top of all that. And suddenly it was just easy. And then you find certain patterns that work with your life. At first, I would just let people book wherever. But then I realized that like that was allowing like single day bookings, that was allowing like people to book on their schedule. No, you need to set it up for you. So I set it up so that you had to book a minimum of 2 days, and then I think it was Thursdays and Mondays were always cleaning days that I blocked off. Like, you could not book on those days. And that way I only ever had to clean the place twice a week, because that's like another annoying thing is if you have single day stays, or even just having a cleaning day on the wrong day, it's like a day where you've got too many things at work, you've got some after work thing, and then you've still got to come home and clean an Airbnb. For me, I had to set up a schedule so that I just knew every Monday and every Thursday I was cleaning the Airbnb. The other 3 days, people would book 2 to 3 days, but I knew that I could clear like a certain amount in that time regardless. You learn how to book far enough ahead.
So that's perfect. So now, because you have a multiple day requirement and you have a cleaning every 3 or 4 days, no one is going to book back to back. You're never going to be scrambling to get one group out cleaning to get another group in potentially that same afternoon. So now you're pacing it out. The customer doesn't know. They just see what's available to you. So as a host, it's important to balance that, right?
Yeah, like I'm only available to people that have searched for things that are available within that time frame. So yeah, 100%. And then one other thing about timing is you learn really quick not to have an early checkout time. There's so many Airbnbs. I don't know if you've ever used Airbnb, but there's so many that checkout time's 10 or 11 a.m. And like and I set mine, I think, at 11. And even if you email me, I would always say the same shtick about, like, for me to clean and turn the place for the guest that's checking in later today, I really need you out by noon. But even though noon, that way you get your place back relatively early. You also don't ever have check-in before 4, because again, like, something weird happens. Like you forget to do laundry, so you're cleaning things the last minute, or like you've got to work from home and you can't leave your home office until 4 p.m. when the day's over, or 5 p.m. And so you need to make sure your guest doesn't get there until then. But as you go, the longer you do it, set it up literally to like correlate with the schedule of your life. My way was specific for living in a house that I was renting out, where a lot of people, like, they just have a side house, or they don't necessarily live in the space and move in and out of it as much as I was.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you are doing your own cleaning then, because I think with Airbnb you get a cleaning fee, which you could potentially hire someone to do.
Yeah, the whole idea is you get like your per night reservation amount of money, but then you can tack on a cleaning fee on top of that. I'm pretty sure mine was like generally $50 to $100. I think it was a static fee. Like you had to adjust it like yourself constantly. It's not like you could say for these reservations it's $100 cleaning fee, for these reservations it's 50. You got to pick one fee. I think they might have had a thing where maybe the other part of the cleaning fee is that for some Airbnbs, some people will provide not pillow service, but they'll come and clean the place that you're staying at periodically, especially if you're staying there for, let's say, a month. They'll pay for someone to come, or they will personally come and clean the place 3 times. And so I think that in those instances, for every subsequent time that it's cleaned, you might get an additional cleaning fee. But again, it's been so long that I'm guessing for some.
Right. No, and it sounds like you were doing the cleaning, but sometimes you would have 5 maybe college-age people coming for a weekend to party and see some concerts and things like that.
Yeah.
Was that a lot of work then? Were you ever surprised? And how about damage and wear and tear on a place that you own and love and cherish?
That's the number one question that I get from everybody. It's like, was your place messed up? Was anything stolen? And so I can't remember the exact number, but I always want to say that I think my total stay is around 333. I don't know why I think that, but I know it was somewhere above 300. And first, let me say, every single time, people were so considerate. Like, people generally cleaned up after themselves. I was always surprised at actually how well most people took care of my stuff, my place. There was definitely the occasional group of people that would leave like a pizza box and the pizza box crumbs just like out and open. There was people that would leave really dirty dishes, but I don't think I even explicitly told people they had to clean them, nor would I really expect them to. I had a dishwasher, so it didn't really matter to me. But I think part of the reason that was that even though I mentioned the 4 to 5, I really did have a strict limit of two people. Like, I would really only up that limit of 2 people for Lollapalooza weekend, where I knew I could really gouge my place for as much as possible. Like, I really had a strict limit for 2. But so the first thing I'll say is that really everyone was very clean in general. The second thing I'll say is that there was one incident, and it was like probably not their fault, but it was probably a mix of like ignorance or just not knowing, and an old window. So I have older windows where at the top you can push them up and down, but you can also pull them out so that you can clean the outside of the window from the inside of the building. And I just don't think that they had ever seen windows like that. I was a younger couple, and they like sent me a bunch of messages like complaining they couldn't figure out how to open the window. And I was like, uh-oh, this isn't going to be good. But because I was like, you just push up. But anyways, later that night, I get just a message from Airbnb saying that the reservation had been canceled. And this was like in the middle of the night too, probably 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And I messaged the people that had been staying there that had messaged me about not knowing how to open or close the window. And they had gone out for the night. And when they came home, the window had blown completely into the apartment and shattered on the ground. And so basically what I'm like almost 90% sure happened is that when they couldn't figure out how to open or close the window, they like pressed the 2 little latches at the top of the window that keep it from swinging back. And I'm pretty sure I was in Chicago, and I'm pretty sure it was a really windy night. And I think it just blew the whole window in. To this day, I really don't think that the guests intentionally, they wouldn't really have any reason to. They were messaging me at 3 a.m. being like, hey, we got to find a hotel. Your window crashed in on us. And so I'm pretty sure it really was like legit. But that was the only damage that I had the entire time. I had to fight with Airbnb a little bit, but I'm pretty sure they paid, if not all of the repair for the window, like most of it. I live luckily a block from a window repair shop, so it was like only $300 to fix. I'm pretty sure they paid for the whole thing. But so to answer your question, no, like there really was never any damage. But it was rare that I had more than 2 people. So no, I've heard a lot of horror stories because like I have some friends at Airbnb, and some of them have had damage that like Airbnb did not pay for. I know some people require a deposit, but you can really only require a deposit if you have a nice place that relatively high earners are renting out. Because the clientele that I was working with, they were really low budget travelers generally. And one of the other reasons that I appealed to low budget travelers is because I was next to a major train line in Chicago. But at the same time, I had free walkable street parking, like easy to find walkable street parking. So there'd be people from the Midwest looking for a cheap vacation, they could drive to my place, park their car there for free, but then take public transportation to get around Chicago all weekend.
Gotcha. And free parking in Chicago is a huge benefit, isn't it?
Depending on where you live, yes. Like where I live, you can get relatively cheap or free parking relatively easy. But if you walk 3 blocks east of where I live, I'm not kidding, it is impossible to find a parking spot. The people that live over there, even though it's only 3 blocks away, they all pay minimum $150 a month for a spot.
Yeah.
A lot of Chicago can be permit parking. That does not allow you to park overnight without a permit. And you can't get one unless you're someone that lives there and they give you like temporary permits and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, great point. All right, so I want to back up on something you said that I have not been able to get my head around yet. You installed a door in your place.
Oh, yes.
And I need you to tell me, Warren, because I am dying to try to figure this out. I have so many questions about it. What is your place like where you can install a door? How do people get in and out to the outside of the apartment? Paint the picture for me here, because I am just so curious.
Yeah, so this all came about because I was still traveling for work, but I was only traveling maybe 25 to 50% for work. And so I was just in Chicago much more. I was single now, so I couldn't stay with a partner who was just bumming to use their place to make money off of mine. And so I love New York, been in New York a bunch. I have a cousin in New York who had a 1-bedroom apartment, but it was like still $3,000. And so him and a friend converted this 1-bedroom apartment in New York into 2 bedrooms. And it was basically like my cousin would sleep in the pantry of the kitchen, and the kitchen was a common space because his bedroom. And then the other roommate had the front of the apartment, which was a bedroom / living room. and then like the bathroom was in the middle and a hallway connected it all. And so I was like, I bet I could do this, because I have an incomplete bath in the back and a full bath in the front. And then there's a hallway that connects. So there's 2 bedrooms. By the back bedroom, there's a kitchen, and that's the smaller bedroom, and that's the half bath. And then at the front, there is a living room, another bedroom, and the full bath. And so I just called my dad one day and I said, hey, I bought a door. Do you want to help me put it in? And so it was a pretty sloppy door install. Like, I'm pretty sure we just put like a couple 2x4s like in between the door frame and like the hallway, just screwed those suckers in. I'm pretty sure I might have even just spackled like some of the spaces shut. Like, it was awful. And then we put a paint coat over that, put a really shabby frame around like over the patchwork. I don't know. It was really bad, but we made it work. And so the front half that I was Airbnb-ing, that was just a living room, a bedroom, and a bath, like a full bathroom. And so the whole like reasoning was like, when people go to hotels, they don't have kitchens. They don't need a kitchen when they come to my Airbnb. Come on. And I put like a little table out there, a coffee maker. Like, I tried to make it as much like a little hotel room as possible. I had a little hot water boiler. I had the whole works. And then the back half of the apartment was just my little apartment. When I wanted to shower, I had to go to the gym, but I live 2 blocks from my gym. So that was always easy for me to do. And then that way I would have the kitchen too. And at this time, like, this was pre-pandemic, so I was still commuting to work. So I never really knew that they were there during the day because I was gone. And then I've never been a homebody. So I generally wouldn't get home until like it was sleeping time anyway. So it worked perfect, and I made crazy money. Like, the one thing I'll say is I didn't make as much money as I would have for renting the entire place. Like, I had to dumb down my prices just a little bit, but I was making full money for converting this small space and just renting out a bathroom, a bedroom, and a living room. So
I love it. And you can only use 1 bedroom at a time anyway. So you've got this extra space, and why not have it work for you?
And I'm not kidding. I think I paid off like a huge credit card. I think I paid off one of my student loans. Like, it was very easy.
On a related note, I feel like a lot of people overbuy on houses without any plan to use them. I love the fact that you're using it. Can you explain to me, is the door to the apartment then inside that other door? So I'm guessing if you come in from the outside, you're going to come into their space before you go through your private door to your space? Is that how it works?
So I mean, my apartment has a back entrance through the alley with not a fire escape, but like you call it like a fire escape porch in Chicago. And then there's the front door at the front of the apartment. So they would come in through the actual front entrance. To them, it looked like going into apartment for regular. I had self check-in, so they just had one of the little key lock boxes at my gate. They would open the lock box, go into my gate, go in the front entrance, and then they'd walk in the front door. And then right when they walk in, to their left is the bathroom, to their right is the living room, and then there's a bedroom too, but the back wall of my living room. Just Normally, the far end of it was a hallway, but where the hallway started, we just put the door. And
Gotcha.
so the door was flush with the back wall of the living room. And you could tell that it had been converted. And it was very cheesy, too, because for fire law, I actually had a laminated sheet. I borrowed my boss's laminator. And I think it said like fire exit. And then it had a code on it because the door lock, it was like an electric alarm knob. I bought some knob off Amazon where they could use a code to open this door, but if they did, it would set off an alarm. The alarm was just like an annoying speaker on the doorknob going, wah, wah. So it didn't send me a text alert. It didn't actually do anything other than making an annoying noise, but it was a way that I could provide a fire exit for them while like also providing like a little level of security. I don't have anything in my apartment worth stealing. They wouldn't really ever have any reason to come into my side of the apartment. I tended to lock my bedroom door. Like even though my bedroom door was behind that locked door, I tended to lock my bedroom door as well, just in case they ever did. But while I was home, I never had anyone go through the door. I don't think people really had any reason to. Like even at that point, for people to rent my place when it was set up like this, I had to put a lot of disclaimers all over my Airbnb profile because I didn't want people to get there and be like, where's the kitchen? I don't remember if you could change caps and bolding, but I'm pretty sure I tried to put it in whatever section made it most obvious. Like at the very top of my profile, you can force user agreements in Airbnb. So if you have something specific, like a custom thing that you want people to literally have to press, I accept to this, you could do it. I think I had 3 things. One of them was it is 3rd floor. There is no elevator. You will have to use old stairs. This is not for you if you're over, like if you have problems getting upstairs or you're older or whatever. This is a converted 2-bedroom space. It does not have a kitchen. And I don't remember what the last one, but so that I had to explicitly tell people as much as possible.
The beauty of that alarm door knob lock thingamajig is that I feel like people like me would just punch the code out of curiosity to see what's behind this magic door. But if there's an alarm and I know that someone is going to come walking down because they are alerted that this wah wah alarm is going off, then it'll stop me from doing it. It's really forcing me to use it only in emergency and not just let me satisfy my curiosity. It's kind of like when you get a hotel room that's one of those connected hotel rooms. I feel like everyone opens their door just to look.
Just to see.
That one's closed. All right, close back up. And then you mentioned here that you were doing Airbnb, but now you transitioned to a roommate. Can you explain the thinking behind that and the rationale?
Yes. So the big reason was because of COVID. Like Airbnb was a little bit OOC for COVID. And then since then, I've stuck with a roommate for stability because, Pete, cleaning twice a week is not fun. And don't get me wrong, if you have a place that earns enough money, you can use the Airbnb to fund like its own cleaning and you can just hire a service. That's amazing. If you can do that, I say go with that. Because people downtown, they do that because people will pay $1,000 a night for some of these amazing 30th floor condos, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it was a lot of work cleaning.
And is that because cleaning is basically the same cost, whether it's super nice or whether it's a low rent place?
No, like for me, cleaning was really easy. I even had like a laundry process. There was always one dirty set and one clean set. And that way it was never like I had to sit and wait for laundry to be done. I would just put on the clean set and then I would start washing the dirty set. And
Gotcha.
So the trade-off between Airbnb is that a roommate you have to be with, like they always have entitlement to the space. Whereas Airbnb, you can say, this weekend I'm not going to rent it out. I have friends visiting I want to just use my place for me. A roommate doesn't really allow for that. But a roommate, you don't have to work for it all. You don't have to think about it. At Airbnb, there's just a lot of upkeep. I had to keep on my reviews constantly. If someone like put a crummy review, you've got a quick, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can I give you like this refund, or can I offer you to come stay with me for free next time? Or what can I do for you to change that review? Or would you be willing to take down that review? Or there was always investment. Like my air conditioner broke, so I had to buy 2 window units because I wasn't going to be able to get an HVAC man out in time to be there for this $2,000 reservation. I can't give that up. Or just like minor maintenance things. This one couple stayed with me and they ripped the sheets, not in a seditious way, just the sheets need to be replaced. And so it was work, whereas a roommate, I don't really have to think about them very much. But I will say there's one last final step to my journey that I'm working towards. And that is, I'm trying to move out of my place for a little bit and rent my entire place out. So the roommate that I have now, he's actually going to be taking over the entire lease. He's going to have a friend move in with him. Then I'm going to rent out the entire place. I'm going to be staying with family for about 3 months. And that'll give me just enough money to save up and hopefully now buy a new place so that I can just turn the place that I'm living right now into just passive income, as they call it. I think. And the whole thinking and reasoning behind this is that because of the housing squeeze right now, I can rent this place now for more than ever. Now I can turn a profit just renting this place out, like enough of a profit that I think I could sustain minor repairs. Like I'll be able to make enough profit on it that I can have a savings account to cover some appliances that need to be replaced in the near future. That there's some bigger expenses like HVAC that I'm just going to have to like fund myself. Like I'll have to make that investment. Like I don't think the property's self-sustaining enough to pay for an HVAC change yet. But for the other minor repairs, I'm confident, at least for now, that I'll be able to just turn this into passive income.
Gotcha. Yes.
That's my final step.
Using the real estate and buying it at the right time and letting the market continue to rise. That sounds awesome. One question I wanted to ask you was, have you ever stayed and then interacted with an Airbnb guest? I know some people will rent out a room where it can't be separated. Have you ever had that situation?
Yes. So that was actually one thing I was going to bring up earlier. You'd asked me about if I'd ever had any negative experiences in terms of damage, but I wanted to touch on one negative and a couple weird experiences I had in terms of interactions. And it's when I was renting out just a room, and it's when I was like staying here frequently while the guests were staying here. So when I just started out, I really didn't have enough reviews to get customers that I wanted. I had so few reviews that I really was stuck going with just low-paying customers that wanted to share a room. I had one really weird experience. He was an older gentleman, and even though I had messaged him and told him, I'm not going to be home when you're there, here's the check-in instructions. Enjoy your stay. When I arrived, he was just upset with me that I hadn't been polite enough to greet him when he arrived. And I was like, I let you know that I wasn't going to be there. And he's, I know, but that's very rude. And so that was odd, and that made me feel uncomfortable. I had another gentleman who was just clearly a heavy smoker, and he was such a heavy smoker that even though he didn't smoke in the room, it took a while for his smell to dissipate. I had a couple guests, I think it was their first time on Airbnb, and they didn't realize that it was a shared space. And so they were alarmed when I would come home. And they'd be like, what are you doing here? And I'd be like, here's your reservation, and I live here. But then I've also had really great experiences. I had one guest, she was visiting from, I think, Vietnam, and made the best homemade spring roll. I've never had a homemade spring roll besides that, but it was the best homemade spring roll I've ever had in my entire life. And I also met occasional interesting people. Again, because it was people that were traveling on a budget, I tended to get a decent amount of students, and specifically students who were in Chicago auditioning for whether it was an instrument or voice or theater. But I met a lot of really interesting people who were here either interviewing for a college or for a professional position. So I met several professional musicians, several aspiring professional musicians. Sometimes just timing was right, where someone would just be like, oh, hey, do you want a beer? And I'd be like, actually, sure. And you just start talking. And even though this person's from the other side of the country and completely different than you, you'd find some commonality. But I would say, even just having the few comfortable interactions, that those few times were enough that I was just I don't really want to share my space.
That totally makes sense. I've always kind of wondered about that, but I think at some level too, you just want to have your own decompression time, your own personal time. And so that can be a lot, especially if you have a lot of people through. And it sounds like you did share spaces with a lot of people. This has been awesome. I love the idea here of using what you've got. I love the idea of here that you are pursuing becoming a real landlord with multiple properties here, income producing properties. I think that can be a great way to get on to the financial freedom track in a lot of ways, because that's a very common way for people that have that.
See, Pete, I think I messed up. I should have found some way to borrow some money so that I could have bought a property during COVID, because I waited too long, and now interest rates are too high, property values are too high. I've lived here too long, and it's too small for me now. I want something a little nicer, different location. So I don't know, Pete. I'm hoping that maybe interest rates will come down a little bit, the housing market will cool off a little bit, and who knows?
The interest rate changes may actually thin out the buyer market a little bit, and we might see some equalization there. And I will say, for anyone that's listening to this, thinking about Airbnb, thinking about passive income, thinking about other ways to leverage their assets, as you mentioned here, I think it might be worthwhile to spend some time, if you're thinking about buying some new assets, to reach out to your local credit union. And BCU is one of the foremost credit unions in the space here.
Yeah, I financed my mortgage through BCU.org. I'll give a plug about two of their programs. I went through their Home Advantage program. And that's where they provided me with a list of real estate agents to work with. As long as I used one of the people on that list, I got maybe it was $1,000 or maybe all of my closing costs taken off. Like as a rebate, I want to say it was like between $1,000 and $3,000 that I got just put right back towards me at closing. They gave me a great realtor. I found a house within 2 days of looking. The person that I bought it from, they were in a time crunch. They needed me to close in under 45 days. I asked BCU. BCU said, yes, we got it done smoothly. There was a couple hiccups. BCU helped me figure them all out. And for first-time home buyers, I don't qualify for this anymore. We do have another program. You can get a mortgage with as little as 3% down and still avoid PMI. So take a look at it.
Yeah. Wow. Almost too good to be true, but I can tell you it is not. BCU, not only just a great product, but backed up by awesome people who really care and will go the extra mile with you. I would definitely recommend checking them out. So,
Smart Buyer, that's what it's called. The Smart Buyer program, put as little as 3% down, still avoid PMI, but it is an ARM. I will say that. And
Gotcha.
or adjustable rate mortgage.
So, any closing thoughts, Warren?
Closing thoughts would just be that Airbnb made it way easier to make money than I ever expected. I really did buy a house knowing that I couldn't afford it. I want to say I only made like 40 grand or something. I didn't have enough. And I thought that Airbnb would work, and it really was just such a great, easy way to make money. I'm a big fan of like the gig economy. I will say Chicago's already made it a little bit harder to Airbnb. They've added a $100 fee, which is fine, but they're strapping it down. But either way, you can do it. It's a great way to make money. And depending on your situation, just consider it. Because I really think even people in the suburbs, if you live by some kind of an event space or something, I still think that you could make like a decent amount of money. You'd be surprised. And one last thing I'll say is that there's this rule that my accountant calls like the master's rule. And if you rent your place out for 9 days or less, it is not counted as taxable income. There's some kind of a tax benefit for that.
So let's say someone's just going on their annual summer vacation. They live in a place where they could potentially rent out their place, stay under the 9 days and provide some income, maybe trade your place for the income necessary to pay for that vacation. I think what a great opportunity, especially if you don't have to worry about the impact to your taxes. That being said, Warren and I are both saying that you should seek the advice of a tax professional to give you guidance on your taxes, of course. But I think this is really great. And Warren, I think you and I are of like minds in many ways. I think generally in the personal finance space, there is this idea that to continue to give yourself breathing room on cash flow, it's really an expense review issue, that you should look at cutting your expenses, that you should look at reducing your financial footprint. And to some extent, I think a lot of people could benefit from that. But you cannot cut your way to zero spend. There is just a requirement that you are going to incur costs to live: clothing, food, shelter, even the basics. And I think in the world we live in, if you look at food, housing, shelter, these things are expensive, especially if you live in a high-cost area like the downtown Chicago area or any of those types of places. Even places that I would have considered more rural, like Western Michigan has really exploded, Wisconsin, and many of these places. So I love at least the thought of adding income to your personal financial equation, because it can be easier to add another dollar of income than it can be to cut a dollar of expenses sometimes, especially when you've already cut to the bone. And if you look at, I think creatively, some of the assets that you have, some of the resources that you already have, even if it's just trading your time for labor, driving an Uber or doing Instacart shopping or whatever it is, babysitting for an evening can bring in 50, 60, 70 bucks. So I think once we start just thinking that, hey, we can pull levers on both sides of the equation here, it really gives some people an opportunity to change their financial picture. And you've done it here.
When I bought this place, I remember my family just saying, this is a great starter home, but in 5 years, you should make a goal to sell this and buy a better one. That has changed, because I don't think that was really like a boomer mindset to own property, whereas I feel like every TikTok I've ever seen about millennials and money is like passive income, buy some real estate, make some money off of it. So I thought that I was probably just going to sell this place and buy a different condo, but now I'd rather have someone else just pay this rent and not sell it, because why not? It's passive income. Actually, Pete, I think you told me you should always have a side hustle, and I downloaded Tasker. I'm going to try TaskRabbit because I'm a pretty handy guy, and I've assembled a lot of IKEA furniture. So I guess people just really hate assembling IKEA, and so IKEA's partnered with them to make it easier to get your furniture assembled.
I love it, Warren. Yes, I am a huge side hustler. I've side hustled pretty much all my life. I have probably done every flavor of side hustle. The other thing I might throw out there is check out Thumbtack, listing yourself up there too, because I actually did hire someone to assemble furniture for me on Thumbtack, and it wasn't cheap. But when you think about how much time it takes people, one, just because they don't know what they're doing. Two, oftentimes you find you don't have the right tool, that a task like that might take someone 4 or 5 hours, really, because they've never done it before, could be done in possibly an hour. So I think there are more people than we think that are willing to do that, especially people pressed for time. And especially if you have the skills to do it, you can knock them out very quickly. So I am a huge fan of that. And whether it's real estate or trading time for money, I think people can find some personal satisfaction in doing some of these things, controlling your own destiny. And so it's just something to think about. I'm not saying that anyone should get into it, but with the advice that you've given here, maybe people can reach out to their friends or family, people that are doing it, get some really practical advice for their areas. I think it could be a really good opportunity. So I want to thank you for coming on today with me on this episode where we talk about the practical ways to pursue Airbnb and what it might be able to do for you. And my co-host, Warren, I appreciate the time and the advice and suggestions and guidance.
Thanks, Pete. It was great talking today.
Yeah, and thank you again for joining us on another episode of Life, Money, You, where we talk a lot about life, a little about money, and hopefully you will find some ideas to help yourself out. So we will see you next time.